Your worst day can sometimes become your best day if you use it. If you don't let it use you, stress can use you, or you can use stress. It's your choice. Most people let stress use them. Technology, most people let technology use them. At that point, I decided to make 3 different choices than my father had at that time. The first thing I focused on was the fact that there was food. The second decision was to ask, what does this mean? And to me, it meant that strangers care. That realization changed my life. When I was a little kid, I came from a tough environment. We had no money, and there was no food on Thanksgiving. What changed my life was that someone, probably someone like you, was kind. The first decision we all make in our lives, the one you're making right now as I speak, is what are you going to focus on? You might not be making that decision consciously, but you're making it nonetheless. The problem in life is that things rarely change because we answer questions in our minds habitually without thinking them through. So the first decision we make, and you're making it right now, is what to focus on. There are millions of things you could focus on at this very moment. But whatever you choose, remember this, focus equals feeling. Whatever you focus on, you will feel. Whether it's true or not doesn't even matter. If you change your focus, you instantly change how you feel. We don't experience life itself. We experience the life we focus on. And that's something we all have the ability to do in every moment. But most of the time, we don't use it. We allow ourselves to fall into habitual ways of thinking instead of taking control of our focus. We must take control of our focus. The second decision we make is, what does something mean? The moment you focus on something, you assign it a meaning. Is this the end or the beginning? Is this person disrespecting me? Or are they challenging me? Are they criticizing me? Or are they coaching me? Or maybe even loving me? Whatever meaning you attach to something instantly changes your emotions. And your emotions control your actions. So first comes focus, second is meaning. And we get to control what something means. If you think it's the end of a relationship, will you behave the same way as if you believed it was the beginning? Of course not. The meaning you assign shapes your emotions, and those emotions drive the third decision you make. What action are you going to take? If you're angry, you'll act one way. If you're generous, creative, playful, or even just content, you'll act in another. These 3 decisions, what you focus on, what it means, and what you do are what control our lives. There are 3 patterns in life, and by changing even one of them, you can completely transform how you experience your world. Ask yourself, do you tend to focus more on what you have or on what's missing? We all do both, of course. But here's something important to understand. Most achievers, most overachievers tend to focus on what's missing. That mindset gives them drive and ambition, but it also makes it impossible to sustain happiness. Because how can you ever be truly happy if your focus is always on what you lack? There's a time and place to notice what's missing. It can push you to grow. But if you do it all the time, you become like a hamster on a wheel, running endlessly, achieving more and more, but never feeling fulfilled. That's why it's so important to get crystal clear about your focus patterns. Do you tend to focus on what you have or on what's missing? Do you focus on what you can control or on what you can't? Do you tend to look more to the past, the present, or the future? These patterns define the quality of your emotional life. No matter what's happening in your life, imagine how you'd feel if your focus was consistently on gratitude, on what's good, what's working, what you've already built. You already know what to do. My job today is to help you get yourself to actually do those things. You've got to put yourself in a mindset of state of psychology every single day, no matter what's going on in the external world, that says, I am in charge of my life. When you do that, you can succeed in any market under any circumstances. You have to decide, I'm going to own this. I'm not going to make excuses. I'm going to find a way to do better than ever before. And yes, that might mean working harder than you did 2 years ago. The challenge is most people think too short term. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade or 2 or 3 or 4. In my case, it's been 4.5 decades. I'm telling you this because you can take control of everything in your life simply by mastering these 3 decisions. What am I going to focus on? What does it mean? And what am I going to do about it? When you take control of those 3 things, you take control of your life. Everybody wants to improve, but nobody wants to change. Yet to get what you truly want, you have to use more of your nervous system, your body, your energy, your emotions. For me, the turning point came when I started studying patterns. There are patterns in everything we do. Anyone who's great at something, investing, business, sales, music, sports, art, anything is a student of patterns. Our lives are made up of patterns. In fact, more than 50% of what we do each day is habit. We think the same thoughts, take the same actions, and therefore experience the same emotions every single day. If you want a new life, you've got to break some of those patterns. When I started learning about patterns and how to shift them, that became the real breakthrough. I discovered that I didn't need to change myself. I just needed to change my patterns. And that's a big difference. It's hard to change who you are. But it's not that hard to change a pattern. Once I learned how to change my own patterns, I realized I could help others do the same. At first, it was simple, just understanding how to shift behavior. But the more I learned, the more complex and fascinating it became. Eventually, I began to see the patterns that exist in everyone. It all started with one question: what makes the difference in the quality of people's lives? Why do some people perform so poorly when they have so much ability, while others thrive despite impossible odds? Some people go through unimaginable suffering, poverty, injustice, abuse, and still rise to greatness. They can be rejected, unloved, physically harmed, and yet emerge as someone like Oprah. Then there are others who are loved, supported, educated, even financially secure, and they spend their lives lost, going in and out of rehab, unable to find meaning or peace. The truth is, biography is not destiny. Decision is destiny. Everything changes the moment you make a new decision. And the first decisions are always the same: what you focus on, what it means, and what you're going to do. But beyond that, you have to decide where the line in the sand is, what you're willing to settle for, because we all get what we tolerate, not just from others, but from ourselves. That was one of the biggest lessons of my life. I grew up poor with 4 different fathers, and I wasn't a popular kid, but I loved people. I remember the most popular kid in school was one of the meanest people I'd ever met. He treated me and my friends terribly, and I couldn't understand how someone so cruel could be so admired. That confusion sparked something in me. It made me curious. I wanted to understand what made people the way they are. I didn't have mentors or role models, so I decided to learn on my own. I took a speed reading course and set a goal to read a book a day. I didn't quite hit that mark, but over 7 years, I read about 700 books on human development, psychology, and physiology. And through those books, I began to see the patterns. Once I began recognizing patterns, I started learning how to change them. I discovered techniques like neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis, methods that could create change in minutes instead of years. At first, I used them on myself. Then I started helping others. Before long, I was challenging psychologists and psychiatrists. I'd say, "Give me your toughest patient. I'll help them in an hour, not 7 years." It might have sounded bold, but I believed in what I discovered. And eventually, I began training the very experts I once tried to prove myself to. In truth, I wasn't just trying to prove it to them. I was proving it to myself. There's always a reason why we do what we do. When you understand the reasons behind human behavior, you gain the power to influence it. That's your job, my job. Anyone's job who wants to make an impact. The number one key to success in anything is your energy level. Nothing replaces it. It sounds simple, but it's the absolute foundation. Low energy means low performance. High energy means high performance. Your emotional state is the most powerful force in your life, and it's driven by energy. Change your energy, and you change everything. You change your relationships, your business, your health, your perspective. Learning to shift your energy is the single most important skill you can ever develop. Think about who you want to be when everything falls apart, when chaos hits, when people panic, when the world seems uncertain. Do you want to be the person who freezes and says, I don't know what to do? Or do you want to be the one who steps up and says, move, I'll handle this? That difference, the difference in energy, is everything. We've gotten used to operating at a much lower level of energy. After the pandemic, people adjusted to sitting more, moving less, and staying home. Many don't even want to go back to work. We've allowed our energy to drop without realizing it because everyone around us did the same. If you can recognize patterns, you won't live in fear because you'll see that what's happening has happened before. You'll start to anticipate instead of react. Most people react. Leaders anticipate. Good times create weak people. It's not intentional. It's just that comfort doesn't demand strength. Weak people create bad times. Bad times create strong people, and strong people in turn create great times. Then, once again, great times create weak people. That's the cycle of history, over and over again, in every country, every era. To influence another human being, you must first understand what already influences them. The number one thing that shapes people is their state, their mental and emotional state in any given moment. If someone is angry, it doesn't matter what logic or reason you bring. They'll react differently than if they were feeling grateful, playful, or inspired. That's why learning to shift someone's state, including your own, is one of the most powerful skills in life. And the faster you can do it, the better. It's not about faking it or chaining, I'm happy, while your mind whispers, no, I'm not. Real change happens when you learn to command your state in seconds. Moment to moment, your state controls you, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. Most people don't celebrate enough, and because of that, their nervous system weakens its connection to joy. Whatever you do regularly, your nervous system learns to repeat. If you constantly hold back your excitement, try to fit in, or play small, your brain starts to wire that as normal. You begin reacting to the environment instead of creating it. But when you condition your nervous system for strength, gratitude, and energy, when you decide that no matter what's happening outside, you'll take charge of what's happening inside, you reclaim control of your life. Because in the end, it's not the circumstances that define you, it's your state. And when you master your focus, your meaning, your energy, and your actions, there's nothing you can't transform.